The white company van was already under the raised barrier when I realized Uncle Adrian had my suitcase, my radio, and every tour credential except the red accordion folder clamped under my arm. He leaned across the passenger seat and shouted through the open window, "Explain the guest list yourself." Then he laughed and drove into Croatia. Behind me, 42 paying guests watched from our stranded coach. In front of me, Customs Officer Ivana Kovac laid 3 passports beside 3 entries Adrian had altered after I flagged them. I opened the folder to the last pocket and handed her his emailed instructions. Ivana read the first page, looked toward the van's disappearing taillights, and reached for her desk phone. "We call headquarters." She put the call on speaker. 3,000 miles away, Adrian's private office began to ring. He had left me there to take the blame. What I didn't understand yet was why he had needed me to take it alone. The line clicked. "Ellison Passage Tours," said Nina, our office manager. I pictured her at the reception desk in Philadelphia, one hand around her chipped green coffee mug. "How may I direct your call?" "This is Officer Kovac with Croatian Customs at Karasovici. I need the person responsible for international passenger documentation." I watched the coach windshield. 42 pale rectangles stared back at me. Phones were rising. Nina said, "That would be our tour director, Mr. Adrian Vale. He is currently avoiding my checkpoint." One of the guests made a noise behind the coach glass that might have been a laugh. Nina's typing stopped. "I'm sorry?" He departed while his coordinator remained under examination. I leaned toward the phone. "Nina, it's Mara." A silence opened. In that silence, I could hear her understanding exactly who would be blamed if she said the wrong thing on a recorded customs line. "Mara," she said carefully, "are the guests safe?" "They're on the coach. We're parked in inspection." Ivana held up the 3 passports. "Your passenger manifest contains false numbers. One passenger also has commercial value silver that was not declared. A woman in a camel coat stood 6 feet away with her lips pressed together. Dr. Elise Rowe was an executive director, a major donor, and the reason Adrian had spent the entire tour behaving as if chairs pulled themselves out when she entered a room. The silver belonged to her. 2 wrapped candlesticks and a Chase serving tray sat in a gray customs bin between us. Elise looked at me. I was told they were reproductions. The dealer in Kotor had also told her the 18th century was more of a mood than a date, so the warning signs had not exactly hidden themselves. On the speaker, Nina said, "Mr. Vale is traveling with the group." "He was," Ivana said. "I'll transfer you to his office." The hold music was Vivaldi. Adrian had chosen it because he believed violin music made callers more patient. After 11 seconds, the line clicked again. "This is Adrian." His voice had changed. The laughter was gone. Ivana gave her name and station. "Mara is with you?" he asked. I looked at the folder. "You knew I was." "I thought you were handling a routine discrepancy. You took my credentials." "I took the document case you left in the van. My suitcase was attached to it." Elise's mouth twitched, then settled. Adrian exhaled softly. He had a whole vocabulary of sighs. That one meant I was embarrassing him in front of someone whose opinion mattered. "Officer," he said, "I'm afraid my coordinator may have misunderstood a simple correction. She's been under considerable strain." Ivana slid his email closer to the phone as though he might see it through the receiver. "At 11:43 p.m. Tuesday, you instructed her to replace the passport numbers for Dr. Rowe, Mr. Bell, and Ms. Shankar. Administrative updates. You wrote, 'Do not send another revision to the liaison. Use my sheet at the crossing.' Is that your instruction?" There was just enough delay for him to consider lying. "Yes, but there is context." "Good. We will discuss context." A truck released its brakes beyond the booth. The blast of air stirred the loose corners of Adrian's email. I put my palm over the paper. Adrian said, "Where is the coach right now?" "With me," Ivana said. "I meant geographically." She stared at the phone. "Still with me." Elise turned her face away, but her shoulders moved. Ivana took Adrian's current location, his passport number, and the license plate of the company van. When he objected that the tour had timed admissions and split, she informed him his van could be stopped at the next control point. His charm arrived then, polished and warm. He complimented her English. He described Ellison Passage as a respected cultural travel firm. He offered to return personally and resolve everything. "You were here personally," she said. "You chose another solution." His warmth cracked at the edge. That was the first thing I got back from him. Not my radio or my suitcase, but the sound of someone refusing to be impressed. Ivana ended the call after directing Nina to email the company's original submission, revision history, and insurance details. She marked the time in blue pen on a paper form. I said, "What happens to the passengers?" "What happens to your company may take longer." She nodded toward the passports. "These two can be corrected after verification. The silver must be declared and valued. The third passenger needs to explain why the passport on your list was reported lost in March." The third passenger, Thomas Bell, had been sitting in the coach with a cashmere travel pillow around his neck. I had watched him use his passport at 2 hotels, but Adrian had handled every border collection personally. "I need to speak with him," I said. "You need to bring him to me." I turned toward the coach. Ivana said, "Ms. Ellison." I stopped. "Leave the folder." For 4 years, I had carried that folder through train stations, hotel kitchens, service elevators, ferry terminals, and once through a flooded wine cellar outside Porto. My mother had bought it at an office supply store in 1998. The red plastic had faded to the color of tomato soup, and one corner was held together by clear packing tape. I set it on Ivana's desk. My hand felt wrong without it. The coach door opened with a hydraulic sigh. Our driver, Luca Marin, climbed down wearing mirrored sunglasses and a navy sweater despite the heat. Luca was 50, broad as a refrigerator and capable of expressing disapproval by adjusting his watch. He adjusted it. "Mr. Vale says drive," he told me. "You spoke to him?" "He called before you came off the coach. He said once he crossed, I should proceed when the barrier opened. The barrier behind us remained lowered. He knew they were pulling me into inspection." Luca looked toward the road Adrian had taken. "Yes, and you didn't drive. I enjoy having license." That was Luca's humor. It arrived so dry that sometimes you noticed it a day later. Inside the coach, the air smelled of coffee, wool, and the citrus disinfectant used by our Dubrovnik hotel. I stepped onto the first stair and 42 people began speaking at once. "Are we detained? How long? Was that Adrian leaving? Is our luggage in the van? Are they searching the coach?" I raised both hands. "I need Thomas Bell, Dr. Rowe, and Priya Shankar to come with me. Everyone else, please stay seated while customs reviews our documents." A man in the second row said, "Adrian told us you entered something incorrectly." Elise climbed aboard behind me. "Adrian told customs that too," she said. Then they read his email aloud. The coach quieted in pieces. Thomas Bell stood in the 5th row, still wearing the travel pillow. He was a retired commercial architect with silver hair and the expression of a person accustomed to being forgiven before admitting anything. "My passport is perfectly valid. Bring it anyway." Priya Shankar was already in the aisle. Priya served as counsel for the Strathmere Arts Foundation, Elise's organization. She had joined the trip in Dubrovnik after a conference and had spent the previous day taking work calls in monastery courtyards. She held up her passport. "The number on the manifest is from my old one. I sent the new number to Adrian's office last week." "You sent it to me," I said. "I updated it Tuesday morning." "Then how did the old number get back on?" That was an excellent question. It joined the others already crowding my throat. Thomas reached us and lowered his voice. "I may have traveled with a replacement document in the spring." "May have. I reported this passport missing. Then it was returned to me by the hotel in Zurich." "Did you tell anyone?" "I told Adrian at breakfast in Kotor. He said it was simpler to use the number already on file. The number on file was not from the passport in his hand. I had replaced it after Thomas emailed a scan of an emergency passport. Adrian had restored the original number, matching the physical booklet Thomas had brought and concealing the fact that it had been reported lost. "You can't travel on a canceled passport," Priya said. Thomas lifted his chin. Adrian said he would manage it. Of course he had. At the customs building, Ivana separated the 3 passengers and assigned another officer to examine the silver. I retrieved my phone from my blazer pocket. I had 17% battery, no charger, and no international radio. Adrian had disabled my access to the company expense account that morning, calling it a temporary fraud precaution after a hotel in Budva charged us twice for porterage. I scrolled to the number for Davor Vukovic, the local ground operator whose business card I had tucked behind my phone case. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Mara, my favorite American, who sends room lists on time. Davor, how much do you like me? At this moment? I need an insured minibus at Karasovici, a licensed guide who can cross into Croatia, 42 lunches and 2 phone chargers." There was a pause. "You are having a border day." My director drove away. Ah, another pause, richer than the first. "A very border day. I can authorize up to 2,000 euros. "Your company account?" My personal card. This time he did not joke. "Mara. I need the passengers fed while we wait, and I may need transport if Luca hits his driving hour limit. I can send my cousin with food in 90 minutes. Minibus will take longer." "Your cousin who nearly left 12 people at a vineyard? He has grown. He was 43. People grow slowly here." I closed my eyes. "Send the food." When I hung up, Luca was standing beside me. "You pay personal?" he asked. "For now." He took a charger from his pocket and handed it to me. "You carry an American cable?" "My girlfriend has an American phone." "You have a girlfriend?" He tilted his sunglasses down. "Many facts exist outside your manifest." That got an actual laugh out of me, brief and ugly enough to hurt. He plugged my phone into an outlet near the officers' lockers. Then he lowered his voice. "Adrian told me yesterday you were leaving after Vienna." "I'm what?" "He said you were tired, maybe emotional about Family House. He asked if I would work direct with him next season." The inspection room seemed to shift half an inch sideways. My mother's house had a leaking porch roof, a furnace that made decisions independently, and a mortgage Adrian had encouraged me to refinance when her medical bills came due. He knew the exact amount of pressure I lived under because he had helped create the spreadsheet. "What did you say?" I said, "Send contract." "That sounds like yes. It sounds like send contract." Before I could ask more, Priya emerged from the interview room. Her face was calm, which on Priya meant somebody else should be worried. "They verified my renewal," she said. "Elise is declaring the silver. Thomas may be here a while." "I'm sorry. I'm counsel for an arts foundation. People apologize to me right before adding 3 billable hours to my day." She glanced toward the red folder on Ivana's desk. "Do you always print your uncle's emails?" "I print any instruction that can strand 42 people in another country." "Does he know that?" "He taught me." Priya studied me for a moment. "That must make this complicated." Through the window, I could see our passengers standing in the coach aisle, trading theories. Near the front, one woman aimed her phone toward the customs sign as her husband posed beneath it. The trip would become a story before we moved 10 feet. My phone lit up on the charger. "Adrian Vale." I let it ring twice, then answered. "Where are you?" I asked. His voice came low and controlled. "Outside Kavtat. They've stopped the van." "Good. Mara, listen to me. We have a narrow opportunity to contain this." "Contain what?" "A paperwork error that could damage the company your mother built." There it was. He could make her sound alive when he needed something. "Why did you change Thomas's number back?" "He brought the wrong passport. You knew it was canceled. I knew he was a 71-year-old donor who had already crossed 3 borders with it." And Elise's silver? The dealer assured us it was decorative. You arranged that excursion. I arranged an afternoon, adults made purchases. He said adults the way a hotel said personal belongings. I looked through the interview room glass. Elise was signing a declaration while an officer photographed the candlesticks. "What do you want me to do?" His breath eased. He had mistaken the question for surrender. "Tell Kovac you compiled the final sheet from multiple drafts. Say you were trying to reconcile late information under time pressure. They'll fine us, we'll pay it, and the tour continues. I'll protect your position. My position, my mortgage, my mother's name on the company stationery. What happens to yours?" "Mara, if I wrote the list, why did you drive away?" His silence lasted only a second, but it was the most honest thing he had given me all day. Then the office line beeped into our call. Nina's voice said, "Adrian, the Strathmere Foundation's Risk Committee is on line 2. They want Mara included." He had called me from his office conference system. Nina had joined us by mistake or had chosen the closest available version of a mistake. Adrian spoke through his teeth. "Nina, disconnect." Priya stepped closer to my phone. I said, "Put them through." And for once, Nina listened to me. A new voice entered the call, clipped and female. "Mr. Vale, this is Grace Hollander. I have Daniel Cho and Martin Reeves with me. We understand there's an issue at the Croatian border." "There was a documentation discrepancy," Adrian said. "I'm resolving it." Grace said, "Are you at the border?" A truck rolled past the customs building, rattling the window in its frame. "I'm coordinating from a secondary inspection point." Nina made a small sound. It could have been a cough. Nina had never been good at pretending a lie was interesting. I said, "He's in the company van outside Cavtat. Customs stopped him after he left us here." Adrian's voice sharpened. "Mara, I asked you to let me explain." "You've been explaining me all morning." Priya extended her hand for the phone. I put it on speaker instead. "This is Priya Shankar," she said. "I'm with Elise at the checkpoint. We have the altered manifest and 3 affected passports. Customs is reviewing the silver now." "Was the excursion where Dr. Rowe purchased that silver included in the approved itinerary?" Grace asked. Priya looked at me. "No," I said. "It was added Tuesday afternoon." "By whom?" "Adrian." "It was a private shopping opportunity requested by several guests," he said. Mara was aware of it. "I found out when the hotel asked why 6 rooms had missed the scheduled departure briefing." I told the concierge. "You told him to charge the vans to our master account under luggage transfer." The words landed harder outside my head. I'd spent so much of the tour translating Adrian's improvisations into vendor language that I had almost forgotten how they sounded untranslated. Grace asked, "Do you have documentation?" "In the folder Customs is holding." Adrian went quiet again. The red folder sat open on Ivana's desk. She was standing over Thomas Bell with a form, pointing to a blank line and waiting. Thomas looked as if the blank line had personally insulted him. "Mara," Grace said, "can you get the group to split today? If Thomas is released and Luca still has legal driving hours. I have lunch coming. I'm arranging backup transport." "Who authorized that expense?" "I did." "Under whose account?" "My own," Adrian cut in. "Which is exactly the kind of impulsive decision I've been trying to prevent." Luca, close enough to hear, removed his sunglasses. I said, "The impulsive decision is sandwiches." "At what cost?" "I'll send you an invoice." Grace let the silence stretch. "Mr. Vale, until we understand what happened, the Foundation wants Mara directing our group's movements. You'll coordinate only through her." "That is not operationally sound. It's our condition for continuing the tour. You have 36 other Ellison Passage clients on that coach, and 6 Foundation travelers whose booking underwrote the museum program in Vienna. Our name is also on the event." Adrian's voice changed by half a degree. He could lose an argument and still sound as if he had scheduled the loss. Of course, he said. My concern is continuity. Then provide it, Grace replied. The line clicked. Daniel and Martin disappeared without saying a word. Grace left after asking Priya for hourly updates. Adrian stayed on. Nina, he said, are you there? Yes. Document that the Foundation has overridden tour operations. My phone showed 4% battery. Document that you changed 3 passport entries after I corrected them. Mara, take this off speaker. No, you have no idea what you're jeopardizing. Elise came out carrying a carbon copy declaration and heard him. I suspect she does, she said. Adrian hung up. Luca handed me his charger again. Your family speaks very long for people with work. That was short, terrifying. Ivana returned the red folder 20 minutes later. She had inserted the customs forms into the front pocket, ahead of the manifest. The pages stuck out because the folder had never been designed for official paper in triplicate. You keep copies of everything, she said. My mother did. Was she also left at Borders? Usually, she was the one coming back for other people. Ivana pushed the folder toward me. Mr. Bell cannot enter with the canceled passport. His emergency document is valid, but he does not have it. He emailed me a scan. A scan is not a travel document. Thomas stood behind her, his travel pillow gone. Without it, he looked smaller and much less comfortable. My emergency passport is in the safe at the hotel in Kotor, he said. I stared at him. The hotel we left at 6 this morning. The regular passport has more stamps. Adrian said it looked better for the Vienna reception. Priya pinched the bridge of her nose. Ivana said Thomas could return to Montenegro, retrieve the emergency passport, and cross later. The rest of us could proceed once the silver duty and company penalty were secured. How much? I asked. She wrote the numbers on the back of a form. The total was more than the available balance on my personal card. I called Nina directly. She answered in a whisper. He's locked himself in his office. I need the corporate card released. He froze yours from the admin portal. Can you unfreeze it? He removed my permission last month. Of course he had. Adrian loved delegation until it acquired buttons. What's available in the emergency vendor account? $2,500, but transfers require 2 approvals, yours and his. The customs penalty and duty came to a little under 1,900 euros. Davor's lunches and backup vehicle would take most of what remained if Nina could move it. Can finance approve instead? Gordon's at a dental appointment. Call him. He had sedation. Call him creatively. A door opened on Nina's end. Her whisper vanished. Send me every charge, she said in her ordinary office voice. I'll prepare the file. Adrian spoke in the background. What file? The border file. There is no border file. There is now. She disconnected. Elise offered her card for the silver duty. Pride flashed across her face when I hesitated. This part is mine, she said. Whatever the dealer said, I bought it. The company arranged the excursion, and I'm capable of declaring a purchase. Don't turn me into furniture because Adrian did. I let her pay. It was such a small surrender that it hurt more than the large ones. My mother had taught me that the tour leader settled trouble before a guest found a wallet. She'd also taught me to know the difference between service and servitude, though Adrian had blurred it so gradually I'd stopped checking. We arranged for Thomas to return to Kotor in a licensed taxi. Davor would collect the emergency passport from the hotel safe and meet him near the Montenegrin side. Priya wrote down every name, vehicle registration, and estimated time. Thomas looked at me. You're sending me back alone? I can send an escort, but it will take another 2 hours to get someone here. What would Adrian do? Apparently, he'd leave before you asked. Thomas's cheeks reddened. Then, to my surprise, he laughed. Fair, he said. The taxi's fine. He started toward the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, Adrian made the passport change sound completely ordinary. That's what he's best at. Davor's cousin arrived in a dented catering van 76 minutes later with 2 phone chargers, 46 paper bags, and the offended dignity of a man whose vineyard incident had achieved international circulation. His name was Peter. He wore a white linen shirt, red trousers, and loafers unsuitable for every visible surface. "I did not nearly leave 12 people," he told me while unloading sandwiches. "I left 11 people. The 12th was with me." "Davor says you've grown." I have stopped taking his calls. He had packed prosciutto, cheese, oranges, bottled water, and 6 vegetarian meals, labeled in thick black marker. There were only 5 vegetarians on my list. Petar tapped the 6th bag. "For whoever becomes vegetarian during delay." That bag went to Mr. Latham in row 9, who had spent the last hour announcing that he couldn't digest ham under government supervision. Food altered the mood faster than truth. People who had been ready to testify against me accepted oranges and began complaining about the lack of napkins instead. I moved through the coach row by row, giving them what I knew and refusing to decorate what I didn't. A few softened. Several did not. The man in the 2nd row, Warren Pike, recorded me while asking whether my negligence had exposed his passport information. "I didn't alter the list," I said. "Your company did." "Yes. And you represent the company. At the moment, I represent the people sitting on this coach." "That sounds rehearsed. It'll be better the next time." His wife lowered his phone. "Warren, eat something." At 1:20, Ivana told us the company penalty had been guaranteed through the insurer. Nina had reached a claims manager using the number printed in the middle pocket of my folder. Gordon, presumably from a dental chair, had approved the emergency transfer with a voice memo consisting mostly of vowels. Thomas was still in Montenegro, but his situation no longer held the coach. We could leave a local escort to bring him forward once he had the correct passport. Ivana stamped our clean supplemental manifest. The sound was blunt and satisfying. "Keep this one in front," she told me. "I will." "Your director is being released from secondary inspection. He may continue." "Did he come back?" "He asked if it was required." That answer lodged deeper than I wanted. Outside, Luca opened the luggage compartment so guests could check their bags. Adrian had taken only my suitcase because it had been loaded into the van with the office cases. My clothes, medication, and laptop were now somewhere near Cavtat, with the man telling Philadelphia I was unstable. Luca examined his driving log. "I can reach Split," he said. "If traffic is kind. Traffic has met us. Then traffic owes us." We pulled away at 1:38. I sat in the guide seat with the red folder on my knees and watched the checkpoint shrink in the side mirror. Elise took the front passenger row. After 10 minutes, she said, "The foundation wasn't just considering an autumn contract." I waited. "We were considering moving all donor travel to Ellison Passage for 3 years. That explained the champagne Adrian had ordered in Kotor, the private excursion, the way he had personally checked Elise's pillow preference while delegating an oxygen request to the hotel desk. "How much business?" "Enough that your uncle brought a proposed exclusivity agreement to dinner Monday." "Did you sign it?" "No." Priya disliked the liability language. Priya, across the aisle, kept reading her phone. "I dislike anyone who calls indemnification boilerplate." Elise turned the customs declaration over in her hands. "Adrian said you were excellent with details but became rigid when you were anxious. He says detail when I'm useful and rigid when I'm expensive. He also said you wanted to leave after Vienna." I looked ahead at the highway, a bright ribbon between rock and sea. Apparently I'm the last person to hear about that. Elise studied my face. "Do you? Do I what? Want to leave?" The answer should have been easy. 4 years of emergency calls, shared hotel rooms, airport floors, delayed invoices, and Adrian using my mother's photograph in brochures while removing my name from itineraries. Then there were mornings when a city opened exactly on time, when 50 moving pieces met so cleanly that guests believed the day had arranged itself. I loved that invisible precision. I hated who collected the credit for it. "I want to choose when," I said. My phone rang. The screen showed the Hotel Königshof in Vienna. I answered, and the group manager spoke quickly enough that I had to ask her to repeat herself. "Yes, we still require the ballroom," I said. "The foundation reception is confirmed for Friday. It is not confirmed in our system, Mr. Vale released the hold 20 minutes ago." Priya stopped reading. "Released it to whom?" "He said your group may not reach Vienna and asked us to offer the room to another client." Elise leaned across the aisle. "Can we restore it?" The manager hesitated. "The other client has accepted the offer. Their deposit is due in 1 hour." Adrian had noticed the first wall in front of him. He was already building a road around it. I opened the red folder to the middle pocket. "Check the original contract," I said. "Page 4, the ballroom hold can only be released by the named event coordinator." "That is Mr. Vale." It was. Look at the amendment dated March 9th. Paper rustled in Vienna. The bus carried us north beside the blue edge of the Adriatic. Then the manager said, "Ms. Mara Ellison." "Yes." "You are the named coordinator." I looked at the custom stamp protruding from the front of the folder. "Restore the ballroom," I said, "and please send me a record of who tried to cancel it." The manager lowered her voice. "Mr. Vale also told us to direct future communication through him. Please direct it according to the contract." "I understand. Send the cancellation attempt to Priya Shankar as well." Priya gave me her email address while the manager waited. When the confirmation arrived, Priya forwarded it to the Foundation's risk committee with the subject line, "Continuity." Elise read over her shoulder. "That's very restrained," she said. "I'm furious," Priya replied. "I shorten my subject lines when I'm furious." We reached Split 3 hours after our scheduled museum entry. The loading zone outside the hotel had been taken by a delivery truck. The rain began as soon as Luca opened the coach doors, and Warren Pike discovered that his suitcase had gone to the wrong side of the luggage bay. All 3 problems felt almost medicinal. I could solve them. The front desk extended our dinner reservation. Our museum guide agreed to lead a private walk the following morning. Luca found Warren's suitcase exactly where Warren had watched him load it. By 9, everyone had a room, food, and a written schedule pushed under the door. Everyone except me had clothes. At reception, the clerk handed me a white shopping bag. Inside were a hotel toothbrush, a sewing kit, a disposable razor, and a navy t-shirt printed with a cartoon Roman emperor wearing sunglasses. "Mr. Marin asked for emergency things," she said. Luca was at the bar drinking mineral water. I held up the shirt. "This is what you think I sleep in? It is largest size. The Emperor has finger guns. He looks confident." My phone vibrated before I could answer. Adrian had sent a group email. The subject was an update from your tour director. He expressed regret for the unexpected border delay, praised the patience of our guests, and explained that a junior coordination error had required him to separate from the coach so he could preserve the remaining itinerary. Any guest who felt inconvenienced could meet him privately in Vienna to discuss appropriate goodwill arrangements. My name appeared once in a sentence about coaching and support. I forwarded it to Nina with 2 words. "Revision history?" She answered almost immediately. "Already saved." Another message arrived, this one from Gordon in finance. "I approve nothing else while medicated." Then, a minute later, "For the record, I also approve nothing Adrian did before I was medicated." I laughed into my hand. At the bar, Luca glanced over. "Good news?" "Dental news. Best kind." I called Nina from the quiet end of the lobby. She was still at the office, though Philadelphia had moved into late afternoon. "How bad is it there?" I asked. He had a conference call with the insurer. Then he called the insurer back because he didn't like their notes. Did that improve their notes? It made them longer. Behind her, I heard drawers closing. "He told everyone you're taking personal leave after Vienna," she continued. "He asked me to draft the announcement." "What did you say?" I asked for the effective date in writing. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He's offering service credits to the Pikes and 4 other couples if they send statements saying you seem disorganized at the checkpoint. My grip tightened on the phone. Are they doing it? Warren already did. What did he say? That you displayed uncertain command presence. He was wearing 2 different shoes when we left Dubrovnik. I didn't include that in the file. Please do. She laughed once, then went quiet. Mara, he's asking about the house. The lobby seemed to lose its air conditioning. What about it? He wanted the current balance on the family loan. The refinancing had covered the last part of my mother's medical care and the repairs required to keep the house insurable. A commercial lender held the mortgage. The company held a smaller second note Adrian had proposed when I joined full-time. He had called it a bridge, a way for family to protect family. Every payment came directly out of my salary. Why would he need the balance tonight? He said he was preparing options. A waiter wheeled silver covers toward the dining room. One of them rattled every time the cart crossed a grout line. Nina, send me the note agreement. I already did. Does Adrian know? He told me to find it. He didn't tell me not to read it. There was steel in Nina I had missed because she wore cardigans with embroidered birds. Go home, I said. So he can ask why. Tell him the stranded coordinator released you. That does sound official. Upstairs, I spread the contents of the red folder across the desk in my room. The customs forms remained in front. Behind them sat the clean supplemental manifest. Vendor confirmations filled the middle. Adrian's emails and my exception notes were in the last pocket, arranged by date. The room smelled of rain and the small lemon cake the hotel left beside the kettle. I ate it with my fingers while reading the loan agreement on my phone. The company could demand repayment if my employment ended for cause. If I resigned or was terminated without cause, the note continued on its normal schedule. Adrian needed me to accept the border incident as my mistake. Then he could dismiss me for falsifying travel records, accelerate the note, and put the house beyond my reach. His abandoned van was suddenly less confusing. He hadn't panicked at the checkpoint. He'd given himself distance from the false list and left the employee carrying it in front of 42 witnesses. The service credits were not merely refunds. They were an audience he was paying to remember me badly. I sat in the cartoon emperor shirt until someone knocked. Priya stood outside with Elise and 2 glasses of white wine. We brought counsel in poor judgment, Elise said. I let them in. Priya took the desk chair. Elise sat on the end of the bed and handed me a glass. Adrian's email went to the foundation president, Priya said. He described the customs issue as fully resolved. It isn't. The insurer opened a claim. He also said you authorized the KOTOR excursion. I opened the folder and found the hotel's vehicle request. Adrian's signature sat at the bottom above the false luggage transfer code. Priya photographed it. You really do have everything in here. Not my pants. Elise lifted her glass. A serious evidentiary deficiency. They stayed until nearly midnight, helping me build a factual timeline. Priya was careful about what she did for me personally and what she did for the foundation. She could preserve documents related to Strathmere's exposure. She could not become my private attorney. The boundary made me trust her more. Elise was less tidy. She alternated between anger at Adrian and embarrassment that she had enjoyed the excursion. I liked the dealer, she said. He called me formidable. He called everyone formidable, I said. He called Thomas distinguished. Thomas is shaped like a monument. Elise laughed so hard she spilled wine on the hotel notepad. In the morning, the group toured Diocletian's palace under clear skies. Our guide met us beside the bronze model 15 minutes early. Pitar had somehow delivered Thomas from the border before midnight, correct passport in hand, and Thomas joined the walk carrying a paper bag of pastries as a peace offering. At the peristyle, he came to stand beside me. Adrian has asked me to describe what happened, he said. He asked everyone. He offered me a credit for Budapest next spring. I told him I would describe what happened without the credit. I looked at him. Thomas adjusted his cuffs. He also implied you selected the passport number yourself. I dislike being used as supporting architecture. It was the closest thing to an apology he knew how to build. Tell the truth, I said. Even the part where you chose the prettier passport. It did have excellent stamps. Over the next 2 days, Adrian worked around me in smaller, smarter ways. He did not touch another contract after the ballroom failed. He called people. He called our Salzburg restaurant and mentioned that the group might be reduced. He called the floral studio in Vienna and questioned whether my authorization remained valid. He called 2 freelance guides who depended on Ellison Passage for most of their autumn work. Each call created a flicker of doubt that reached me as a cautious email or a request for an additional deposit. He understood relationships. That was his real competence, and it made him dangerous even after everyone knew he lied. I answered with paper. I sent the restaurant its signed guarantee. I copied the hotel on the floral order. I asked Nina to issue written confirmation that I retained trip authority. When Adrian refused to approve it, Grace Hollander sent the Foundation's own instruction that all Vienna program decisions ran through me. Some vendors relaxed, others remained careful. Adrian would still exist after our coach went home. The guests divided in less predictable ways. Warren gathered signatures for a complaint about the delay. His wife quietly gave me a portable battery and asked whether Thomas had eaten. A retired physician who had criticized me at the border later noticed I had been wearing the same blazer for 3 days and arranged overnight cleaning through the hotel. Elise bought me a plain black dress in Graz and removed the tag before giving it to me. It was on sale, she said. It absolutely was not. Then I've been robbed. Wear it to the reception so I feel better. Adrian sent my suitcase to Vienna by courier. When it arrived, the zipper was locked with a plastic security tie and my laptop was missing. He claimed he had removed it for safekeeping. Nina checked the office device log. At 3:12 that afternoon, someone using Adrian's administrator credentials accessed my company laptop. At 3:19, a folder containing my border notes was opened. At 3:26, an external drive was connected. I had already photographed every handwritten page for Priya. My mother had distrusted computers because, as she put it, people confused a clean screen with a clean conscience. Adrian used to tease her about the red folder at staff dinners. The last time she led Vienna, she made me carry it for one afternoon. I had been 22 and offended by its ugliness. If you're ashamed to hold the record, she told me, you'll be tempted to change it. At the time, I thought she meant handwriting. Our coach reached Vienna just after sunset. The Ringstrasse shone from recent rain, and the hotel's brass awning reflected across the wet pavement. Adrian stood beneath it in a charcoal suit, greeting guests by name as they stepped down. He kissed Elise on both cheeks. She allowed one. To Warren, he said, "We'll speak privately." To Thomas, "I'm relieved you're all right." Thomas handed him the empty pastry bag. Mara arranged it. Then Adrian saw me. His gaze moved over Elise's black dress, the red folder under my arm, and Luca carrying my newly returned suitcase. For an instant, something like grief crossed his face. He had known me since I was born. He had held my mother's hand when she died. He had also left me beside customs with his altered list. "Walk with me," he said. He led me past the lobby into a narrow service corridor lined with banquet chairs. A dishwasher clattered behind one door. Through another, florists were building the Foundation's centerpieces exactly as ordered. Adrian closed the door. "I can make the house note disappear," he said. There it was. Family translated into a number. In exchange for what? You resign after the tour. We call the border incident a shared administrative failure. You keep the house, receive 6 months' salary, and sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement. And the insurer? We correct the record internally. The record is already outside. Records can be interpreted. I looked at him. "Is that why you took my laptop?" His jaw tightened. "I protected company property. You searched it. You work for me. My name is on the company, too. Your mother's name is on the company. That isn't the same thing. The blow was clean because part of me believed it. From the ballroom came the sound of a microphone being tested. Adrian lowered his voice. Celia trusted me to keep this business alive. She didn't have to make payroll. She didn't sit across from lenders. She got to be beloved. She worked until 3 in the morning fixing your promises. And you think carrying that folder makes you her? No. The answer surprised him. I set the folder on a stack of banquet chairs and opened the front pocket. It makes it harder for you to make me into you. I showed him the customs receipt bearing my name and Ivana's stamp, the corrected manifest, the excursion request, and his printed instructions. His eyes stopped at the customs receipt. The house offer expires tonight, he said. Then let it. For the first time since the border, Adrian looked afraid. He covered it quickly. You'll lose more than a building. I already did. I picked up the folder and walked into the ballroom, where Priya was waiting with a message from the insurer, and Grace Hollander had just received Adrian's proposed 3-year contract. Both documents required answers before the Vienna reception opened the following evening. Grace handed me Adrian's proposed contract first. He planned to announce it tomorrow, she said. The cover page carried both logos in gold. Inside, Ellison Passage promised exclusive donor travel, fixed pricing, and full compliance with all border, customs, and insurance requirements. Adrian had initialed every page. The signature line for Strathmere remained blank. Priya set the insurer's message beside it. Their claims manager wanted the original manifest, every revision, the name of the person who authorized the changes, and an explanation for why a company vehicle left during an active inspection. The answers can't coexist with this contract, I said. They can, Priya replied. They just can't coexist honestly. Across the ballroom, a florist lifted an arrangement onto a table and turned it until the white roses faced the right direction. Adrian had been selling the reception as the beginning of a 3-year partnership. He had needed the customs issue to belong to one anxious coordinator, not the tour director signing a compliance warranty the next evening. Grace folded her arms. Our committee wants to know what Strathmere should do. You should cancel the contract. Elise's eyes settled on me. Grace asked, even if that hurts your company? It will? How much? I thought of Gordon's constant arguments about deposits, the aging coach contracts, the raises postponed twice. Enough. Then I'm asking again. So am I. I pulled a chair away from one of the half-dressed tables and sat. My feet had been aching since Croatia. Anger had kept me upright longer than comfort could. Cancel the contract, I said. Pay what you owe for this tour. Don't punish the vendors, guides, or drivers who performed, but don't give Adrian 3 years of people he can put behind his mistakes. Grace nodded once. Good, Priya said. Now the insurance statement. I opened my laptop. Adrian had returned it with the external drive activity, erased from the recent device menu, but Nina's log showed exactly what had happened. I typed while the ballroom changed around us. I stated when Priya sent her renewed passport, when Thomas disclosed his canceled one, when Elise bought the silver, when I corrected the entries and contacted our liaison, when Adrian ordered me to restore his sheet and stop asking for revisions. At the end, I wrote that he took the company van from the checkpoint after telling me to explain the list. The cursor blinked. Submitting the statement meant refusing his last offer in a form he could never reinterpret privately. I pictured the porch of my mother's house in October, wet leaves caught under the steps, the blue mark inside the pantry door where she measured shelves and changed her mind, the dining room table where I had learned to collate itineraries because she paid me in takeout noodles and pretended not to notice when I stole the shrimp. Then I pictured Adrian's van crossing the barrier. I attached the documents from the red folder and sent the statement. A delivery receipt appeared. Priya closed her own laptop. That was the right answer. It's an expensive answer. Yes. I appreciated her for leaving it there. Nina arrived in Vienna the next morning. She came through the hotel's revolving door wearing a gray raincoat over one of her bird cardigans and carrying a hard-sided document case. Adrian stopped in the lobby when he saw her. What are you doing here? Working, she said. At whose instruction? The insurer requested original records from headquarters. Gordon said sending them by courier was irresponsible. Gordon is finance. He was also the only person willing to approve my ticket. She walked past him and handed the case to me. Inside were printed server logs, expense records, and Adrian's signed authorization for the KOTOR vehicles. Nina had also brought the original itinerary amendment, naming me as Vienna event coordinator. You flew overnight for paperwork? I asked. I've worked for your family for 19 years. I wanted to see what happened when the paperwork arrived. Adrian stepped close enough that I caught his cologne. Nina, go upstairs. She looked at him over her glasses. I don't work upstairs. It was such a Nina answer that he had no polished response ready. He asked me to meet him in the hotel cafe. I agreed because the reception opened in 7 hours and I needed him to stop changing things long enough for us to finish it. He chose a corner table. He had already ordered my coffee the way I drank it before my mother died, with 2 sugars. I had taken it plain for 4 years. I know what you sent, he said. I assumed the insurer would contact you. You've exposed us to a coverage review. You created the claim. I was trying to save the Strathmere agreement. By changing passport records? By getting 42 people across a border they had crossed before. One of them was carrying undeclared silver, which she paid duty on, after you drove away. His face tightened. The van had the contract files, the hotel deposits, and our entire Vienna presentation. If they impounded it, the reception was finished. You could have handed them to Luca. There wasn't time. You had time to take my suitcase. It was attached to the office cases. You had time to tell him to drive without me. He looked toward the cafe entrance. Nina stood there with the document case talking to Priya. You had already printed my email, he said. You'd copied the liaison after I told you not to. I knew what you were doing. Keeping a record? Building a defense. From you. I had a company to protect. Finally, it was plain between us. He had seen resistance and adapted. He restored the false entries, removed my expense access, told Luca I was leaving, took the credentials, and placed me beside the altered list. If Customs accepted it, he reached Vienna with the contract intact. If they caught it, the young coordinator who compiled the documents had acted alone. You needed witnesses to see me holding it, I said. I needed the tour to continue. You laughed. His eyes dropped to the coffee. For a second, he looked like the uncle who had slept in a vinyl chair outside my mother's hospital room. Then he rubbed his thumb along the edge of his saucer and became the director again. Strathmere would have stabilized us, he said. You've seen the cash forecasts. 1 bad season and 30 people start wondering whether family principals pay their rent. You didn't trust those 30 people enough to tell them? I trusted myself to fix it. That's the whole problem. He pushed the sweet coffee toward me. Withdraw the statement. I'll extend the house note for 5 years. You offered to erase it last night. Last night, you hadn't sent the claim. Even cornered Adrian negotiated. Some stubborn part of me admired the reflex. I stood. The reception runs through me. You don't speak for Strathmere, announce the contract, or approach guests about statements. After Vienna, the insurer gets the full record, and every client receives a factual incident notice. You don't have authority to demand that. Then Strathmere files its contractual claim, Elise files hers, and Priya releases the timeline with your signed excursion request. Choose the expensive truth or the more expensive lie. His mouth flattened. You sound like your mother. No, she would have given you another chance before finishing her coffee. I left both sugars unopened on the table. By 6, the ballroom glowed. The hotel restored the original seating plan. The flowers arrived. The quartet had the correct risers, the museum director had the correct introduction, and all 42 travelers reached the reception with their formal clothes and passports in their own possession. Adrian appeared in black tie and took his usual position near the entrance. The hotel manager handed the ballroom keys to me. He watched her do it. Grace spoke to him before the doors opened. Their conversation lasted less than 3 minutes. She returned the unsigned exclusivity agreement in its gold folder. Adrian accepted it with one hand, then glanced across the room at Elise. Elise was showing 3 guests the customs declaration for her silver tray. She had turned the worst moment of her tour into a story in which she had been foolish, corrected, and charged accordingly. Adrian had no role left in her version. Warren Pike approached me near the coat check. "I'd like my complaint withdrawn," he said. "That's your decision." Adrian didn't mention that he'd changed the records. He knew that when he offered the credit. Warren looked toward his wife. "She pointed that out. She's observant. Do you need something in writing?" "Yes." He nodded, less offended by the request than he had been 3 days earlier. I expected that. The reception itself moved with the pleasant friction of any live event. A microphone failed. 2 place cards were reversed. Thomas spilled mineral water on a deputy museum director and dried his sleeve with the silk pocket square Adrian had recommended he buy. No single moment announced Adrian's defeat. It accumulated around him. Guests asked me about departure times. Hotel staff brought me decisions. Grace introduced me to the foundation president as the person who had delivered the program. When Adrian approached the lectern, at the time reserved for the partnership announcement, Priya intercepted him with the revised schedule. His welcome had been reduced to 30 seconds. He spoke for 28. From the side of the ballroom, Nina watched him fold the unused announcement and slip it into his pocket. Customs reached his office again the following week, this time in writing. Ivana's report quoted his instructions and his attempt to characterize them as my misunderstanding. Nina attached it to the insurer's file along with the call log from the morning he left me. Adrian chose the expensive truth. The company notified the affected guests, reimbursed Elise's duty, and paid the customs penalty. The insurer renewed our coverage with a higher deductible and conditions Adrian hated: independent review of international manifests, dual approval for itinerary exceptions, and his removal from operational control of border-crossing tours. He kept his ownership interest and his talent for sales. He lost the right to lead departures. Strathmere completed its existing obligations and took its future travel elsewhere. Adrian blamed me in precise percentages. He said I was responsible for the higher premium, the lost contract, the outside compliance fees, and the damage to his reputation. He was less precise about the altered entries. The company offered me his former title. I declined. For 2 months, I stayed long enough to close guest claims, train Nina on the new manifest controls, and make sure Gordon stopped storing emergency approval codes in a drawer labeled MISC. Then I resigned without signing Adrian's non-disparagement agreement. The house lasted until February. Without my Ellison passage salary, I could cover the mortgage or the second note, but not both. Adrian followed the agreement exactly. He did not accelerate the loan. He did not forgive $1. I sold before the bank could make the choice for me. On the last evening, I sat on the bare dining room floor with takeout noodles and the red accordion folder beside me. Adrian's original offer would have saved the house. That fact remained ugly even after every other fact had lined up in my favor. Nina helped me pack. She found my mother's old label maker in a kitchen drawer and made a strip that read, "Border File." "That's not what it is," I said. "It is now." I stuck the label over a cracked place in the plastic. The sale cleared the loans and left enough for a deposit on a small apartment above a laundry. The radiators clanged. The kitchen window faced a brick wall. I slept better there than I had in months. Work came slowly. Davor sent me 2 Balkan itineraries that needed an American operator. Luca called 3 days later. "I hear you are unemployed with expertise," he said. "I'm consulting." "This is unemployed with invoice." He proposed a partnership: Davor on regional contracts, Luca on transport, me on operations and client relationships. Equal decisions, written exceptions, separate expense authority. We argued over insurance, cancellation reserves, and whether Pitar could ever be trusted with vineyard departures. He became our catering partner. Our first independent Vienna group filled 28 seats. It was smaller than Ellison Passage's coach and louder at breakfast. Every traveler submitted passport information through the proper system. Every change received 2 initials. The hotel contract named me once, in the place that mattered. At the Croatian checkpoint, I placed the repaired red accordion folder on the dashboard before stepping down. The customs receipt bearing my name and Ivana's stamp remained in the last pocket now, behind the records it had once protected. In front sat a clean Vienna manifest, signed only by me. Luca tapped the steering wheel. "Ready?" I closed the folder and looked through the windshield at the raised barrier. "Drive," I said.